You know, there was once a very wise wizard who was asked, "How did you know what was coming?" And he said, "By looking ahead." And they asked him, "How did you find us?" "By looking behind." And speaking of behinds, behold, this is the 2025 Genesis GV80 Coupe. That's right. They have restyled the rear portion of their GV80, and don't worry, the regular GV80 is still there if you're a square. But here we have their new version of the GV80, and it is magnificent. And the coolest thing about this vehicle is it is as beautiful on the inside and underneath as it is on the outside. And man, it is a beautiful car. Want to know more? Please stay with us. Man, it is all about the Coupe. Isn't that a beautiful machine? What's also interesting about it is the paint job, because it's it's exactly the same color as my Triumph motorcycle, which I'm sure there are subtle differences. They come from very different places, my motorcycle and this vehicle, but it has this beautiful kind of a gunmetal gray. Instead of being glossy, it's more of a flat color. And it's absolutely beautiful in person, I'm telling you. But not to in any way distract from the fact that the lines on this car are so magnificent. This is a beautiful coupe. And the thing that's so great about it is it still has all that SUV utility. It just doesn't have quite as much cargo room as the regular GV80 does. But what it has is a beautiful styling exercise that is just the beginning, really. It's just the genesis of what lies underneath, because it is powered by a magnificent V6 twin-turbo supercharged engine. The supercharger, incidentally, is electric in nature instead of like belt-driven. And as a result of that, we have tremendous power out of this vehicle, and it also still manages to get pretty decent gas mileage. These are things that often don't go hand in hand, but there you go. Genesis has worked long and hard on this thing, and it is so beautiful. But what I like most about it is just driving it, because they've also, every attention that they could put as far as the details of how the machine responds, how it handles, how it rides, and all the technology, and it's got a lot of technology. It's got an exhausting amount of technology, but it also is a very practical vehicle, surprisingly enough. It has good ground clearance. It has all-wheel drive. It basically, if you can afford it, because it's not cheap, this is a real good all-around vehicle, especially if from time to time you have to carry and pamper rear seat passengers, because there's a lot of room for passengers back there, and it still manages to haul a lot of cargo. So without further ado, let's take a look at that engine underneath there, because the specialness starts from the outside, but it starts in the inside as well, as in under the hood. Join me. Well, will you take a look at that? You know, it's becoming almost common in a strange way to see 3.5 liter V6 engines with twin turbochargers. Because there are several. Ford has your EcoBoost, and Toyota has the engine in the Tundra and the Land Cruiser, and there's several out there. But this one is got something on all of them. It's not a hybrid, but it does have an electric supercharger. And that, of course, increases intake speed of the air and does all kinds of things. Look at it this way. It makes it even more powerful, much in the same way that Your turbocharging makes it powerful. Now naturally, in this situation, I don't know of anybody that's doing the twin turbo V6 and mounting it transversely. I think almost all of them are mounting it longitudinally, front to back. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 are your cylinder locations. And look, both sides have an air intake for that cylinder bank. It also has these massive things here. This is all about your turbocharging, because as you know, you have air coming in that is compressed by the exhaust air going out. It runs through an impeller that turns the turbocharger and compresses the air, and then the air goes down into an intercooler system to cool it back down, because whenever you compress something, the temperature goes up. And ideally, to feed the gasoline direct injection or whatever's got this thing's got, I'm not sure. I should be, but let's see. I got my information here. It doesn't say in my information, but I'm sure you probably have some gasoline direct injection. You may also have some port fuel injection. I'll see if I can find out. I should know these things right off the bat, but I'm getting more and more, I'm getting vehicles that either have both or just gasoline direct injection. Those with pure port injection are starting to completely disappear. Sort of like two-door pickup trucks. They're all being taken away from us. I'm not real sure why, but there you go. But anyway, we have an intercooler in the bottom, and it brings the cooler air into the intake system. Now the intake system is all located here because it feeds 3 over here and 3 over here. Your exhaust, of course, is on the outside where your turbocharging is. And everything about this engine is beautifully laid out. It's very elegant. Camera shadow. And I love how Genesis, their attention to detail goes all the way into the engine compartment. They really are terrific at detail work and just a certain symmetry to everything. And it's magnificent. It's just like a continuation of the smooth styling on the outside. You open the hood of a Genesis and you get a really good looking engine. And everything is easily accessible. You can pop the top off the engine cover off of there and get to your oil and everything else. And look, over there, see there? Dipstick in an orange. Very nice. So what's our numbers that are so impressive with our supercharging and our turbocharging? Horsepower is 409 at 5,800 RPM. Not bad for 3.5 liters. The torque is 405 pounds-feet. That peaks at a range from 1,300 RPM all the way up to 4,500 RPM. Not bad. It's joined with a 8-speed automatic transmission and does in fact have all-wheel drive. So it's kind of biased towards the rear. All Genesis are performance-oriented cars, so they tend to be rear-wheel drive first and all-wheel drive second. But you won't see right off the bat, I can't think of a model that Genesis puts out there that's primarily front-wheel drive. They like rear-wheel drive because it's more fun for you drifting and things like that. Our curb weight of this vehicle is 5,200 pounds, so you got plenty of muscle to haul it around. I do not have a tow value for if you want to tow with this vehicle, because it's not here yet, the value of what they've assigned it to. I'd say at least 4,500 to 5,000, I'm guessing, but I think it definitely has the ability to do that. We'll have to see. You know, we'll know when they finally put the numbers out there, and if I can find them, I'll put them down at the bottom of the screen. But anyway, a very, very potent engine, and with that 1,300 RPM torque peak, which is aided by the fact that you have the electric supercharger. When you take off in this car, it's very, very smooth and I would never call it abrupt, because you can really modulate it nicely, but it's there. All the power you need is there to get off the line really quickly. And at the same time, if you take your foot out of it, it seems like you can get pretty decent mileage. What are our EPA ratings? 18 miles per gallon city, 22 highway with a 20 overall. We'll see what we'll do. I'm estimating in the wintertime, naturally your fuel economy is the worst it's going to be all year, especially when it's like 19 degrees, which it is right now. And we'll take that information and pass it on to you once I've driven it. But just keep in mind, it's a winter number, and so during the summertime you can probably get better mileage. Look at that. By the way, while I'm right here, and you can see me in that reflection. Look at this array of headlightness. It's some kind of magic. I'll go into this when I'm going over the interior, but it's some kind of magic thing that the bulbs are made from the planet Venus or something like that. But it's impressive looking, and they work well too. At night they do a very, very nice job of illuminating the road, which is ultimately their job. But I think we have an awful lot of styling going on there. So there's our winged Genesis. And I'll tell you something else that's really interesting about this car. As you can tell, it's made, for example, that hood definitely feels like it's aluminum, but it's a very, very solid feel to it. The entire car has a terrific, solid quality feel about it. And all the Genesis models have had that pretty much from the beginning. But it's gotten better. They've refined it. They've done things to it. And all these efforts that they've put into stiffening the chassis and making sure it's a solid item. Also, it helps in the safety department in case you ever do something silly like have a wreck with it. You have a lot of technology protecting you, but you also have just a very solid body structure. I didn't point it out, but you have struts on either side connecting the spring towers in the front to part of the unibody to help stiffen the whole front end. So they really, like I say, you get the impression it not only attention to detail, but at the same time a lot of research and development went into this car to get it exactly how they liked it. And it shows. It really, really does. Let's move onward. Let's look at some more stuff. Oh my goodness, gosh, the Michelin Man has been here. Now, the first thing you notice about the tire wheel setup is, oh my God, those wheels are big. And if you don't like big wheels, you're not going to like these. But if you do, you're looking at 22-inch wheels on this thing. And massive, massive brake calipers and a very large brake rotor. I believe it's 360 millimeters, something like that, 375. Hang on a minute. Wow, I'll put it down there. I'll put it down at the bottom of the screen. But this is the vehicle, the supercharged version that I should have talked about from the very beginning. There is a non-supercharged version of this car too. So if you don't want that extra electric supercharging, you don't have to have it. You can save a little bit of money. And but on this vehicle, you also get, in addition to the supercharging, you get these massive wheels and brakes that, you know, when you got something that goes so fast and accelerates so quickly, you need something that'll stop quickly too. And that's what they've done. They've ensured that that happens. Our wheelbase is about 100 and, wait a minute, let me get my stuff. God, I have things to tell you. All right, hang on. Brakes, where are they? The front caliper, the front rotors are 380 millimeters, and the rears are 360 millimeters. And the wheelbase is 116.3 inches from axle to axle. So it's got a long wheelbase, and that helps facilitate all the rear seat room that you're going to see when we go through the interior of the car. It's like if you want to carry realistically 3 of your friends in this thing, 4 actually, you can do so in a way that they will be very comfortable. There's a lot of interior room. They've put a lot of thought into the ratio between the cargo area and the rear seat area, because that's always a conundrum. They always argue over that. And here, of course, we have our rear camera, and actually there's plenty of other cameras. I'm going to use this button here, see if this works. There we go. All right. This is the first time I've actually looked back here. So let's see what we have. Woo! This is hard, actually. This is a hard surface. I'll be damned, look at that. Oh, isn't that clever? It's a hard surface instead of one of those flimsy little vinyl things. That's a nice solid surface. And as you can see, there's a lot of depth here. So even if you have the rear seat deployed, you can get quite a bit of cargo back here in terms of suitcases, because it's almost like it's shaped for that. You lose a lot of room up here because, you know, the coupe, fastback design, but at the same time, look at the marvelousness of all this cargo space you have. It's a pretty high liftover, but it's very, very well furnished, and it's also very wide. So there's a lot of cargo capacity here, which I will share with you. With the seats deployed as they are, you have 30.3 cubic feet of cargo area. And if you fold the seats, which we can do right here, I believe. Look at that, power, 60 degrees. Woo! How about that? You can do one side or the other side, or both sides. Let's do both sides, shall we? And it's not exactly fast, but it is power operated, which is nice. All right, there we are. So when you do that and you lower it down and you chuck this away, your cargo area is 62.1 cubic feet of space. And there you go. So that's a lot of space. But what's amazing about this too is even with the seats deployed, you do have very, very generous cargo room and still have a back seat that's got a hell of a lot of room in it. So again, this car is so well thought out to be as versatile as it possibly can be, even though you might think it's more pointed towards performance, and it is, but they didn't, like I said, they didn't compromise anywhere. And that's getting rarer nowadays. Manufacturers are all going in a direction that they think will just sell the car. And this is a car you can actually live with and still enjoy all the luxurious amenities and the high performance. Nice. Ah, the universe inside an automobile. Well, this automobile anyway. So here we have the inside of our Genesis GV80 Coupe. And I have been wrestling for a few days now with this particular instrument cluster because it's, how will I describe it? In terms of interface, well, we just don't get along very well. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this interface or that it's flawed in any way. I'm just saying that we haven't gotten along all that well because I can never seem to get it to do exactly what I want to do. We'll start here, though. We'll start here with, as you can see, as we have with all modern steering wheels, especially those of luxury vehicles, we have an array of controls that are right at your thumb or fingertips, thumbs actually. And this particular one here is our main menu one. And there we go into our regular analog setup. Now, whenever I put it here, as you can see, the center trip computer reveals a trip odometer that has been reset since the last reset. And I was told in order to reset it, you just hold down the menu button. Logical, right? That's usually the way it works. Well, I'm holding down the menu button. Holding, 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 still holding, holding. No, it's not, it doesn't do that. So if we go up and down on this toggle switch next to it, it'll move the map, for example, which now we have the map here and the map here. And as you can see, there's this flow between the center graphic display and the analog instrument graphic display, which is all one big piece of flat glass, and it's one. You can it can all join together and just be one wide screen, which is kind of cool. I kind of like that. But if we continue to toggle through here, there is our demonstration of what our adaptive cruise control is doing, which if we were motoring down the highway right now. And then we have, it goes back to the trip meter, and then it goes back to the map, and I can't get it to do much of anything else. If you go down, of course, nothing, same thing. The view mode cannot be changed right now. Please try again later. Well, when would they suggest? You see what I'm saying? So I've had some problems with this, and I was able to actually reveal what I wanted to. This all started when I was trying to get to the trip meter, and if you just lightly tap this, there it is. There's my trip meter, and if I go up and down here, I can sense last reset, current trip meter, and sense refueling, which is the one I like the best, and sense last reset. So if we go to sense refueling and I hit this one here, it still goes back to last reset. So we'll go into one of the other menus in a minute, but I'm not going to get too tedious with this because it's not intuitive. I will make this universal statement. It's not as intuitive as a lot of other vehicles. By the way, this annoying little red thing that's been going on and off that you've seen, it's not doing anything right now. That's interesting. That is essentially a system that is watching the driver, and by watching the driver, they can put various prompts up there, such as, pull over, get some rest, you seem to be tired, that kind of thing, which it does for me when I'm driving the car about every 10 seconds. I don't know what it is. If I look out the window, like there's a flagman or something like that, and I'm looking over and passing a vehicle that's working on the side of the road, and I'm making sure that I'm not running over it, it'll then determine that I need to take a rest. So again, that's one of these calibration issues that I'm not real sure where it comes from, but there it is. Now, using the drive mode indicator, we can go to Sport, and like you see, we have a slight modification there. And then we can go to Sport Plus, which is glow in the dark on those indicators. And then we go to My Settings, which of course are different settings that we personally can adjust, and I'll show those in a minute. And then we have Snow, which is very similar to Comfort. And if we go to Eco, everything goes green, very normal for Eco. And then we can go to Comfort, where I usually leave this. So you have those different drive settings that slightly alter the parameters of the transmission and the response to the engine and suspension, all that stuff. We'll get to that in a moment. While we're in this area, let me tell you what else we have here. This button is normally set up. I have it set up right now for the sound system because stuff over here is more auditory in nature. Here's your volume. Whoa! And here's if you want to make a telephone call or receive a telephone call. And this goes back and forth to adjust the steering wheel. Here's the home button by control. This is where you can adjust a whole bunch of different things here. A button touch iPad settings. Well, we don't have a touchpad per se on this. The select media can be accessed only when the steering wheel mode button, using the steering wheel mode button. Only active available media can be accessed. So you got Amazon Music, phone production, sounds of nature, that's us. And so again, it's one of these buttons that you can adjust to fine tune what you want to do. Same thing with the star right here. Press the star button, it's a custom button. And then again, these are different things that you can have it adjusted, like driver assistance settings, sports. It'll go to sports if you're into sports. Steering wheel, touchpad, left, right motion, all this kind of stuff. So once you get this beautiful car in your garage or driveway or whatever, you have some work ahead of you. You need to design everything you want it to do because you have a lot of different options, and I just don't find accessing these things all that intuitive. Like I said, I keep using that word because it's disappearing from modern automobiles. Anything that's control-wise that's intuitive. But once you set up things the way you like it, then you're in good shape because then it'll just do whatever you like. Now, while I'm dealing with all this stuff, we have a command control type thing. So it's similar to what originally appeared on BMWs, known as iDrive, years ago. Well, now everybody's got something like this. But we also have these direct buttons here, and this is one of the strengths of both Genesis and Hyundai. You still have a lot of direct buttons. You got your volume knob here, you got your tuning knob here, which I'm feigning tuning because the radio's not on right now. The Sounds of Nature track is on. But we also have, I can press home, and this gives us all these different things. Phone projection, things you can do as far as integrating your phone with this vehicle. And here's setup. And setup involves all these different things with your sound system, device connections, user profile. And the vehicle itself is what we're going to go to now. If we go to drive mode, and we go over here to my drive mode, this gives us like powertrain settings. For the powertrain, you can select Eco, Comfort, Sport, Sports Plus. In other words, the regular drive modes you can set in your My setting, you see. Steering, we have Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus, which tightens the degree of the steering so it's more responsive. And then finally, there's suspension. And you can go Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus. We'll put Sport on the suspension. Steering comfort, we will leave at, where was it? Comfort, we'll go to Sport on steering. And then the powertrain will be Comfort, and there we go. So there we are. So that's my drive mode. Now then, if I go over here to the drive mode setting and I switch, I can go down to my drive, and there we are. All those settings I just put in there are in the my drive setting. Again, I recommend that one because that allows you to take bits and pieces from various. You notice there wasn't one for the transmission, which is interesting because I guess it doesn't do anything with transmission there. But I promise you, if you put this vehicle in the Sport or Sport Plus settings, there is a difference in how the vehicle responds, both engine response and when it shifts. And that's all designed to further enhance the sporty nature of the vehicle. Now, if we go back here, oops, that's where I wanted to be, sorry. We have the heads-up display, which has been disabled. It has now been abled. You can see that. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we have height adjustment control and side-to-side control, and also the content selection. So we'll go down to content selection and select, and all these different things can be put on there. Driver convenience invite, turn-by-turn navigation, all that stuff. If you are inclined to use your heads-up display, I'm not. So there we go. All right, so as you can see, there is a huge array of customization that you can do. And I really wish that I could get this thing to stay on this particular setting, sense refueling right there. But when we put sense refueling on there, then it bounces the since last reset over to the right, and you have no tachometer anymore. But you do have a digital speedometer, and what's this around here? That's your tachometer, which is also digital. So there you go. All right, down here we have a bunch of sundries. You can turn off your traction control, of course. This is your downhill ascent control. Your lighting, as far as the panel lights are concerned, this is your access to the rear gate. You press that, it'll open. If it's open, you press that and hold on to it, and it'll close. This is your manual parking brake right here, which is currently set. You put it in the drive and it disappears. It automatically unsets itself. Now then, as we drop below our main screen into this area, here's our massive, massive climate control. But immediately above the climate control, again, we have direct access to all these different things. Rather than going through a menu, if I just want to go straight to setup, I just press that, and there I am in the setup menu. If I want to go to media and select whether or not I'm listening to, well, anything I'm listening to. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing here. Huh, that's interesting. And I can make the whole thing go away and just leave it with our map. Which you see, here's cities and stuff over here. Which, actually, there is a road down here. That is a true map right there. We go all the way over here, and there's mountains. Now, I don't know where these mountains come from. There are none anywhere near here, but okay, that's what I say to that. So anyway, back down to our climate control situation. Again, very easy to navigate through this because it's mostly just direct buttons. You have both your heating and your ventilation through your Napa leather seats. Also, some people call it Napa. I like Napa better because it sounds more swoopy. Then we have our up and down, turn left, right here, where you can adjust your zones. Up front, you have two zones, passenger and driver, and customize that. If you put on sync, which sync is on now, of course, you put one on with the driver's side, and it's also on the passenger side. But if you disconnect that, you can run this way up high because grandmother's sitting over there, and she gets cold easily. So we'll put her on 79 and put the driver on 69, or we'll just sync them up. This is very interesting here. This is your heated steering, which thank God we have that because it's been cold. The air conditioning, you can disconnect the air conditioning aspect of this and just go with pure ventilation if you want. This is a lovely little spray enhancement that I think they spray something in the air to make you feel better. I think it's jasmine, or I really don't. Let's turn it on and see what it does. It's now refreshing the air with a pleasant scent. It's not unlike incense, but it's completely unlike incense. And then, of course, we have our rear defroster and front defroster. Rear defroster is all the way over here. Front defroster is here. Again, very easy to find and access, and I appreciate that. Now, here we have this little section here. Woo, magic. We have a USB port of C nature, and next to it is another USB port of C nature, which has a little battery symbol on it because that's got all the juice if you want to plug it in and charge. But you don't need that if you have near-field communication, because right here is your QI charging area. You also have a 12-volter right over there. So that's all covered and convenient, and you can make it all go away with the flip of your finger if you desire to do so. Now then, here we get interesting stuff. These two dials are about the same diameter. This one has a scalloped feel to it. This one does not. This, of course, is your command control unit that I was using before to navigate around and do all kinds of stuff with. This is your transmission selector. Now, they are very similar in diameter and pretty similar in feel. I think that's crazy. What I wish Genesis would do, which I wish they put a transmission operation paddle, just like they do in the Hyundais, which goes in right down here and comes out right here and is completely separate from everything. It is possible for you to mistake these two things just because they're the same diameter. Now, after you have the car for 10 years, you probably won't be doing that anymore, but I'm telling you right now, it's that really vexes me, and I really think I always complain about this because I just don't think it's a good idea to have them just like this. True, they're fairly far apart, but still, same diameter can be confusing. Now, all you do here to go into your various modes, as in drive, we are now in drive, and then there's reverse, which is you turn to the left, and then there's neutral, which neutral is always good to have. And then to go to park, you just press the button. So again, if you haven't driven any of a lot of the modern cars nowadays, that's how everybody's deciding to change things. For no particular good reason, they'll give you all kinds of, excuse me, well, one of the main reasons they do it is it frees up this area more instead of having a regular column shift, not column, but a floor shifter right here. And some will argue that it's safe, the interior car is safer in a collision that way. Yes and no, it depends on how it's constructed, and I don't know about that. I think they're doing more than anything else, they're doing it just to be different and more modern in their view. So anyway, here we have our console, and I have all kinds of stuff in here, and it looks really shallow, right? Well, the fact of the matter is you take this, you just grab this out of here, much deeper area. See, you got a little bit of illumination down there. It's very nice. Unlike the Santa Fe I just tested, which had this fantastic system where you could also open it from the rear, you can only open it from right here in the front. Like 99% of the vehicles on the road, it's not that unusual. Let's head on over to the right. We have a very roomy glove box in here. Look at there. They even have a placard right there that has your highlights. You will not see that. This is part of the press package. So I'll put that back in there, except, it's not fitting that way. Oh, what have I done here? Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh my God, I can't get it to shut now. Oh, it shuts just fine. The passenger seat here, let me show you our beautiful Napa leather, and it's quilted, and it is both heated and ventilated, as I mentioned before, and has a world of adjustment, including the driver over here can mess with you. They can move it back like this, or they can do this. Whee! Recline. They can completely adjust this from the driver's side. Not necessarily something you'd think is useful, but the fact of the matter is, it is actually very useful. It's a good feature to have. Let us go into the air. Whew. Here we have our setup for our little panoramic room. Well, let me open this first of all. It's cold outside, but I'll open it anyway. Here you have pretty much a standard, isn't that pretty? You have a standard moonroof that closes like this, and then the whole thing can be shut down with this shade, which is actually very thick. It's almost like the roof itself. And then you can peel it back. Now, one thing you might notice right off the bat here, oops, do that. Now we're completely open. Now we close it there, and we have it completely closed, and yet we have the open air effect of the panoramic view. And the thing about it, wow, look how windy it is. The thing about it is it's a very dark tint, and I haven't found anything about if it has some chromatic adjustment where you can actually change that, because there isn't any. So it's always that tint, and that's nice. That no matter what, the sun will not come in and broil you, which you don't want it to do. Here's our lighting. Nice, huh? All these LEDs. This is the map light for the driver's side. Everything is very, very elegantly designed and very well finished, as far as it does have a feeling of quality, no question about it. Incidentally, our sound system that you're listening to, the Sounds of Nature, which this one is called Universe, this particular track, is Bang & Olufsen, which is really cool. Sound quality is excellent, as you would expect. It always is with Genesis vehicles. They don't fool around, you know, they get the good stuff. So, let's go aft and see what we have back here. Oh no, a dog and a ball. There we go, all right. Ice here, be careful, don't slip getting in. Nice big rear door, and it opens just about 90 degrees. Nope, sorry, I'm busy. Excuse me, I'm busy. Now, dog's gonna be all grumpy. All right, now, we have tons of leg room. It's very, very roomy, and you also have the ability of sliding forward, sliding back, tilting. It's almost like you're in the front seat. You have seat tilt, and you have front to back sliding motion, which is fantastic for your rear seat passengers, and they have enough room to do that. Window goes down about, I'd say 82%. Doesn't completely lower, and there are no window shades back here, which I find surprising, to be honest with you. But we do have very nice map lights, and here we have our own personal rear seat. We got heated seats, and check this out, very unusual, ventilated rear seats for both outboard passengers, because you can't get 3 people in here, no question. Very mild drive shaft tunnel, but lots and lots of leg room and lots of headroom. And again, the ability to be able to adjust the rake on these seats is really fantastic, because again, this thing screams to go on long trips, because all 4 of your passengers can be really, really comfortable. And but wait, Boots, I want to plug in. Well, you can. Right down here we have 2 USB-C ports, and we have 110 or 120 actually. 110 or 120. It's 115. 115 volts of the maximum of 150 watt capability. So you could even plug in a regular appliance. You can, you know, some of the. I don't think you put a toaster back here. They pull a lot of watts, them toasters. But there's all kinds of things you can plug in there, and including chargers for your various devices that may not use a USB-C port. Think about that. So we also have a 60-40 split, and we have a very nice armrest here. What's this? What is this? I think this goes here. There we are. I fixed it. There will be no charge. It's at a very good angle and a very good height, so that you're very comfortable back here with this. And what else can I tell you? I'm very surprised about no window shades. It's just kind of unusual, but then again, they know what they're doing. And naturally, there isn't one, since this is actually it's a coupe, but it is also got a lift gate instead of a trunk. There is no rear shade either, but the rear window on this is actually fairly small because of the coupe fastback roof line. So you could argue that it would be silly to have it, because you're not going to be broiled by the sun sitting back here, because the sun doesn't have enough room to get in and broil you. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. So what else do we have? We have, more than anything else, excellent fit and finish in this Napa leather upholstery is very, very comfortable. And like I said before, it is quite unusual and wonderful that you also have seat ventilation. So if you're driving through the Sahara or Furnace Creek down Death Valley Way in Nevada, you can be comfortably cool. It's all set up for that. And again, the sound system pretty much surrounds and pervades the cabin beautifully. Like I said, our Bang & Olufsen, we got our mid-range tweeters and our mid-range or whatever. Who knows what that is? It's attractive though. And as with the front of the cabin, everything is beautiful as far as workmanship. It's not overly over the top at all. It's actually very, very classic, which is, again, a Genesis hallmark. And the headliner is one, I think that's one of these Alcantara things. These headliners are actually very expensive because the material that they make it with is pretty expensive. If that's what it is. It may not be, but I think it is. I think most of the black ones are. So, okay, there we are. That is our lovely Coupe GV80 Genesis 2025 edition. Oh my gosh, road work ahead. Fines are doubled. Don't they know I have no need for fines? Well, we'll see here as we go down in a safe manner. I always look for these people working on the side of the road now. Give them plenty of leeway when possible. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something. Okay, so with our twin turbo V6 supercharged through electricity, let's we're gonna get some welly on here and see what kind of power we have here. Let's see how she sounds. Not bad. Now, those to me are the funnest kind of acceleration tests because it's uphill. So you got that to deal with. It has that to deal with. I'm gonna put on our cruise control. There we go. And so it has to pull, it has to fight gravity and fight all kinds of things so you can see what kind of power it has. Now what's really interesting about this, it does have this electric supercharger, but it doesn't have any of the aural entertainment that you get from the old style belt-driven superchargers. I'm trying to remember the last one I drove, and it's been a while. It seems to me that there was a Cadillac that had a supercharger on it, but I'm not positive about that. What I am positive about, though, is I did have one of my all-time favorite Range Rovers, and this is before it looks like some very large asteroid hit them and crushed them, and now they're all like this. They used to be like this, and now they're like this. In the old, kind of the old style, body style of Range Rover, it had I believe a fairly small Ford V8 engine in it that was supercharged. And when you got on that thing, oh my goodness gosh, it was delightful. It had to, yeah, and I think there's also a Cadillac I drove that had a supercharger, but they make so much noise when that thing really gets wound up, you can really hear it. Kind of a Mad Max experience. And this electric one is it just sounds like a regular engine, you know. I don't really hear anything. The acceleration is very nice. It's also very smooth, very, very smooth and linear acceleration. Considering we have all these boosting devices, 2 turbochargers and 1 supercharger, you might think there's just a hit of power. But at least going up that hill, it's very, very different type of experience. It's very smooth. It's a rush of power as opposed to a hit of power, if that makes any sense. And one of the things that fascinates me about this car is it has a very interesting ride. It's a firm ride, and I believe we are on, what are we on right now? I believe we are on the comfort setting. What's going on up here? I see all kinds of activities. Look at all this activity here. Oh, I see what they're doing. They're gradually, instead of repaving the whole thing, it looks like they're just going to fill in bits of it that are falling apart. But then again, I could be wrong. Shut up! It tells me it's time for a break because I'm looking out the window. Anyway, what are we at with sport? Were we in sport? Smart cruise control deactivated. Why? God, go back on, you idiot. What is this car doing? It's rebelling. I have a car that's rebelling. I don't know what the problem is, but anyway, we'll put her on comfort there. I believe it was on sport. That's one thing about this that I don't understand, is there's no clear indicator in the instrument cluster area about what drive mode you're in that I can see, and I'm looking very carefully for it, and it'll about tell me that I need to take a break because I'm looking for something. But in general, the primary thing you're doing with the sport mode anyway, I believe, is transmission. Is it changes when it shifts. Watch for surrounding vehicles. Why has this thing got such a bug up its bottom about telling me everything I already know? I thought I had a lot of this stuff turned off. Apparently I don't. Apparently it's determined to I don't know what it's trying to do. It's trying to get me to drive the way that it thinks I ought to be driving, maybe. That would explain the time for a break thing. A lot of vehicles do this now because of this thing right here, which is watching you. And as you can tell on the camera, you can't see it with the naked eye, but on the camera I know, I bet this is flashing red, 2 dots. Because that's just what oh, isn't that better? Another thing about this car that's a little vexing initially, and I'm still going through the initial phase, so I'm still vexed. But what this menu button does over here, which is right next to your cruise control adjustment knob, they're just right next to each other and feel exactly the same, which is not good. I believe in a totally different tactical feel to radically different controls. One's driving the car here, the cruise control, and the other is just putting information up on this thing. But if I go like this, I can see what the car is seeing in terms of the adaptive cruise control. And I'll do this, which is where I was at earlier. I really like this particular feed because it tells you what all the wheels are doing. And this is definitely a rear-wheel drive biased car, just like all Genesis cars have been. All high-performance types, sport touring types are like that. But I like to have these analogs up here because, see, consider taking a break because I moved my hand in front of it. And I don't know how to turn that off, folks. I have not been able to find that yet. But if I owned the car, either I would turn it off or if I couldn't turn it off, I would go to the dealer and say, "Turn it off! Mend it!" And I don't know what they'd say to me. They'd say, "No. Mr. Tarkington, we will not do that to your vehicle. It's as part of the mainframe of the control system on the automobile, and it cannot be deleted or changed." Okay, now what happens here? Well, we have the self-steering on, also known as lane tracing, also known as lane centering, also, and we have the adaptive cruise control. And so what happens if I do this? Look, it's changing lanes. Thank you. That is an assistance system. That's highway assist, I believe it's called, on the Genesis. And it assists you when you're in automatic driving mode. It lets you pass people if and you won't. Let's do another, shall we? And there we go. Look at there. Did that all by its own self. So that works. Is that of great value? You tell me. I mean, I don't really think it's neat that it can do it, but is it something you really need to have on your car? I don't know. Wow, look at all this stuff here. It looks like a vehicle of most interesting design. And you know what we have here? Well, this is our rear suspension on our GV80 Coupe. And look at the newness of it all. I always get excited when I get underneath a vehicle and it hasn't been rusted or fouled by lots of gunk. And you can see everything because, especially a vehicle like this particular Genesis, because it's so interesting underneath here. Everything is very unique, highly sophisticated, and loaded with interesting bits. For example, our rear suspension here, here's our lower control arm, and here's our upper control arm, which is a big A-shaped affair, like an A-arm right up here. And then the coil spring is way up in there. So what does this all mean? Well, this is all aluminum, all these structures here, for to reduce your weight, as is this pivoting point here, which they both pivot on, you see. And if I didn't know better, I would say this vehicle has rear wheel steering, but I don't think it actually does. But it's got to have rear wheel steering, because why else would you have this particular ball joint right here unless it didn't turn a little bit? So I think we have all wheel steering here. I'm trying to figure out where the actuator would be. This here is this here. Here's our, by the way, this is our anti-sway bar, all tucked in there. And these aluminum components are all there to reduce your unsprung weight so that the suspension can respond faster. And with all that horsey power available, so 400, you know, right here is our drive shaft, which is a thick old thing, built for the long haul and built for actually transferring a lot of torque to the rear tire. Here's our rear differential right here. And as you can see on the other side, you can see the lower part of this control arm. Look at how beautiful that is. This is a complex structure. And then the front part of that lower control arm is where that coil spring sits. Sophisticated, I'm telling you right now, and I didn't even enter into the fact that we have our subframe right here, which is what the whole thing is tied into. This thing right here, which is tied into your steel unibody. So you have unibody construction, and then you have a cradle here that is holding all these delicious, absolutely delicious suspension components. And see, look at this subframe runs all the way up in here. Boy, this is wild back here. It's just wild. Now, our shock absorber is just a regular old shock absorber. No. Here is our electric actuators right here, which actually that looks like it's going into that's part of the brake line there. But somewhere up in here, I can't see it right here. We'll have to look at the other side. Can you see it on the other side? Let's look up in there. Ugh, here we go. We're going up. I don't see it, but it's somewhere. But these shock absorbers are able to change their valving, I believe. I mean, that's how you stiffen up the suspension, right? For your sport mode and your sport plus mode. So there you go. So what else? Well, here's our differential as mentioned, and here is our drive shaft, and our drive shaft is protected by all this stuff. There it is in there. It goes through kind of a torque tube affair to the transmission, which is right up there. Here's your two exhausts coming from each side, each cylinder bank. And then they come down here, and it looks like most of the muffling is done. These are pretty small. These are like pre-mufflers right there. And then you come all the way back here, and whoa, look at the size of this thing. Good God, that's your main muffler right there. So, oh, it's so laid out so elegantly and so interestingly. And then we also have these panels here. This isn't real robust armor of any kind, but it's more to smooth out the airflow underneath the vehicle as much as anything else. But there's a little bit of protection. And as you can see, there's a good amount of ground clearance too, which during my week with this vehicle, I've had zero trouble with the ground clearance issue, and I've been over some deepish snow in a couple of places and a few other areas where there is a rocky, unimproved road that I've had zero trouble with ground clearance. It has plenty. For this type of vehicle, as long as you don't get too crazy. Don't get too crazy. You get too crazy and, well, there we are. And as you can see, I can put my foot right here and it's not turning. So there's actually a very good amount of travel. We have full compression on this rock over here. And we have almost full extension over here. If I'd move this thing over a little bit, the tire would be down here. Or would be down in this area here. And we'd have full extension. But it has plenty of travel, that's for sure. So anyway, this is our GV80 Coupe underside rear chassis suspension system for your entertainment. And as you can see the way everything's tucked away, there really isn't any room for a spare tire back here. That's why it doesn't have one. It does not have one at this time. But there you go. It's as beautiful on the underside as it is on the outside, and that's saying something.
Ah, yes, but how much does it cost? The 2025 Genesis GV80 Coupe 3.5T ESC all-wheel drive has a base price of $85,750, and with destination charges and optional paint charges, our sticker came to $88,630. A lot of money, but a lot of car. I averaged just under 20 miles per gallon, which is quite good considering it mostly was done during the winter time, this testing. And this is a great car. It takes all the attributes of the 80 series Genesis SUV and puts it into a coupe, a beautiful four-door coupe that turns heads everywhere you go and is a genuine pleasure to gaze upon. But the real pleasure of this vehicle is its performance, its ride quality, and just the overall package you get when you buy a Genesis like this. So you folks take care out there, and we will see you next time.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.